Friends, I don't know how many times I have started this video review, got 5 minutes in, but I was so tongue-tied because I am just so incredibly excited for this review and hope that I can gush about it and make everybody else just as excited as I am. Hello friends, happy Friday. So very excited that you're here. I have been eagerly anticipating this manga so much, and that is Twisted-Wonderland, the manga, and I hope I'm saying it right, the book of Heartslabyul. I don't know how you say that. I should have Googled to see if I could figure out how to say it because I'm I don't know. I just call it Twisted-Wonderland. And this manga is actually based on a game that came out in the United States last year. It's basically surrounding these amazing guys. Honestly, the Twisted-Wonderland boys, certain days, depending on my mood, depending on what type it is, rival my love for my Haikyuu boys, and I love them. Granted, nobody will ever take number one from them at all, but Twisted-Wonderland really comes close. It has such a great cast of characters, and the great thing is you don't need to be familiar with the game to read the manga. Now, obviously, from what I've shared so far, I am a huge fan of the game. I actually downloaded the game a few months ago, I believe, because I had heard about this manga releasing, and I so wish that I was holding my physical pre-order in my hands. It's not quite here, or maybe it is. If it is, I will definitely share a photo. But as of filming this review, it was not in my hands, and I'm just I'm so desperate. It came out this past Tuesday. All of the confetti, very, very exciting. But in case if you're not familiar with this manga or either the game, and I will say right here, right now, before I forget, you do not need to be a fan of the game or have even played the game or know the characters to appreciate the manga. Granted, I will be coming with all of my fangirl ramblings as a fan, but I definitely don't feel you need to play the game to appreciate this story, and I hope that I'll remember so I can say a few more things about that. But what is this manga about? For the first volume, I gotta keep it relevant to the manga, not the game. So for the first volume here, this young man, his name is Yu, he is preparing for a tournament or some championship in Kendo, the sports Kendo. He's coming home one night and suddenly this black carriage rolls up with these horses and teleports him to another world. Goes to this world in a very interesting way, when he wakes up, it's not traditional by any means, and he's what in the world am I doing here? Because everybody in this Twisted Wonderland, they all have magical abilities, but the main character, Yu, does not. He doesn't have any kind of magical abilities, and they're no, this is wrong. Anybody who's invited to this academy, Night Raven Academy, has to have magic, and he's no, I want to go back to Japan. I have to go prepare for my tournament tomorrow, because he's sort of the head leader, and he's also the best in the Kendo Club and restored it, got it back to its glory days, so to speak. As he's explaining all of this to the head mage of this academy, suddenly this little creature named Grimm comes on the scene, causes so much havoc at orientation, and that's sort of where things open up and unfold as Yu is in this Twisted Wonderland land and getting to know the different people in this world, though specifically in the dorm that was inspired or reflects Alice in Wonderland elements, specifically the Queen of Hearts, because that's the really great thing about, and really interesting thing as well, about this series, about this game, is that each of the dorms, similar to how you have the houses in Harry Potter, but they're dorms and they're inspired by the Disney villains, quite a few of them. So you have Jafar from Aladdin, you have Scar from The Lion King, and obviously, like I said earlier, you have the Queen of Hearts from Alice in Wonderland. Now, I will just say right now, as a fan and player of this game, I loved it so much. It was so good. I tried so hard setting my expectations to be really low because I'm these guys deserve nothing but the best. And I'm if I come into this and I don't like it, or it's not good, or I feel it's not a good reflection of these guys, I'm I am gonna cry. I really want the best of things, and it was so amazing. I love how we have the cameos. Oh my goodness. So Idia is one of my favorite characters. He just has cameos in this first volume. Oh my gosh, and I was so excited. Like, even when we see his tablet, I was like, yes! Oh, I love Idia so much. He's one of my best boys that can do no wrong. Like, even though I've heard things later on, I'm like, no, Idia just can't be in the wrong. Like, he's just that great. He's just that amazing. So I really appreciate how we had that cameo of him, and also the other house wardens. If you know, you know. And it was so good. And honestly, as soon as the manga opened up, I was already really excited, even more excited, and just filled with awe because we get colored pages, and I'm like, thank you, Viz. Like, yes. And it just snowballs from then on. Like, it was just absolutely amazing. Like, it really felt like I was playing the game, but reading it in manga form, which was exactly what I personally was hoping for and wanting. There were conversations I remember that happened that were literally, as somebody said, like cookie cutter from the game, just put on page. The one thing I was like really worried about is like when you're playing the game, you yourself are the player, and so I was a little nervous like how that transition would be where we're playing the game, we're the player, and we're interacting with these characters, to now in the manga that we have you as the main character and we're interacting with these characters through him. I did not find that transition to be odd at all. In fact, I thought it was really, really smooth, and I thought it was very well done because in the beginning, you get familiar with you as a character. I absolutely love him. I adore his character. I think he fits right in at home. Like, he establishes a really great presence on page where despite that he has no magic, these other characters in the Twisted Wonderland, they have to acknowledge who you is because his strong-willedness and his determination, they just shine on page. And so I really feel like the other characters can't be like, well, you're just a janitor who has no powers and you're just looking for your way home. No, they have to acknowledge that you has good ideas, which we do see one of them already in this first volume, but also that he brings something to the table as just a character himself, and they can't just cast him aside simply because he's sort of unwanted in this place and just doesn't have anywhere to go. But I also felt like it was done really well where like we have him as a character, but he sort of goes in like out of the spotlight and the Twisted Wonderland boys just shine. I love that. I thought it was really well done. Maybe that doesn't sound like a good thing, but there is this perfect balance where like you're getting to know him as a character, but later on, especially closer to the end of the volume, he doesn't have as much page time. And that's not because like he's not being acknowledged, but I feel like based off, at least off the game anyway, you're not focused on yourself or you as a character. Why you? It just focuses on the Twisted Wonderland boys and what they're doing and how they're doing things. Like, I really, really love that. So I felt like there's just this nice balance and this transition that doesn't leaves the manga a little bit different in that regard, but it's not so different where it's like jolting as a fan or player of the game. Another part that I thought was really well done as well is I was personally worried, like, you know, when you're playing the game, you have these battles and these fights and you have to level up the magic of the characters and just their like general XP or EXP levels and everything. I was worried specifically when it came to the battles that the battles in the manga would be really short because I'm like, how is that going to transition from the game to the manga? I was so wrong. It was not just a one-page kind of deal. It would be several pages and the battles were epic, especially when they fight the big monster at the end. Yes, it was so good. I loved it. I felt the eeriness, like even more so than the game. And I really agree with another reviewer that I saw on Goodreads had stated that they capture a little bit of a more darker aspect tone to the manga that's different than the game. I wouldn't say this is like a dark read. I think it's really fun. And I don't know if that's just because I already love the characters, but I feel like because these characters are inspired by Disney villains, I feel like we just have a little bit more darker tone or presence elements to these characters. And I just felt like that came out really well in that big boss battle. I got tongue-tied near the end and absolutely loved it, especially like the final page. It is epic. It just captures so much of the mood and the feelings that I feel like these characters and the vibes that they have. And that was one really fantastic part that just shined in this manga. But I want to take a minute to pause. Hopefully I won't forget my train of thought. So I've gushed so much about what I, as a player and fan of the game, have enjoyed this. But here's the question. I wonder if you haven't played the game. I wonder if you're not familiar with these characters. Can you come into this story and still appreciate it and enjoy it? My personal answer is yes. And I thought really hard about that, trying to be like unbiased. So I have a little bit of bias. I do confess that, but I feel like maybe going into this story, it's going to be really bizarre. I mean, like you have a giant cauldron that falls on somebody to stop them from fighting. That's pretty out there. But the thing is, I feel like when I was thinking about how some of the events or the ways certain characters act, specifically Riddle and how hot-headed he is, I feel like maybe it has the potential to come away confusing, and it could cause somebody to think, well, why, ask the question, why does this character act this way? Why are these weird things happening? But here's the thing, you don't need to be familiar with the game or the characters, because when you play the game, everything you're experiencing in the manga is just like how it is in the game. So I remember when I was first playing, because I just started playing a few months ago, I was very leery of Riddle, and I love how he's conveyed, and how even I remember asking, like, what is this guy's problem? Like, why are the like Vice House Wardens Cater and Trey sort of like the mediators, and why would there be a giant cauldron that is falling on this guy? Like, I feel like it makes you ask questions, but it's just the same way in the game. You're still not sure why you're here in this world. Why can't you go back home? Why would you be summoned why would you be summoned if he has no kind of magical ability? So I feel like you're asking questions as you're reading. So if you're like, oh man, there must be some kind of hidden nugget that they just didn't weave into this manga. No, it's conveying that same feeling. And I love that. I love how people who can't play the game or haven't played the game are being able to experience bizarreness or the weirdness or just the eeriness of the game. I mean, it's so wonderfully portrayed. I mean, I feel like honestly, you wouldn't even have to play the game. I would recommend playing the game because it gives you more one-on-one time with the characters, in the sense that the game creates events that you won't probably find at all in these manga. Like they're going to give you the main storyline that's in the game and not the smaller events. But that is another story for another day. But I feel like even with those questions that are being asked, it's not so mysterious or puzzling or maybe even frustrating of not having answers that it makes you want to put the book down. I feel like the story itself is just really unique. I mean, having a story where the characters are inspired by Disney villains, and how I don't think it goes much in depth in the beginning because it wasn't talked about much here, but I love how these characters admire these villains and we see them from a different light. There's something that happens to a statue of the Queen of Hearts, and it was bad for everybody that was involved that this statue caught on fire, because they're like, this is blasphemy. Like, you're gonna get expelled for doing this kind of mess. And it's sort of like, well, she's not really a good guy, but to these characters, they find her to be a good guy, and how inspiring she is in the way that this dorm works, because it is crazy. If you've seen Alice in Wonderland or you've read it, which I personally have not read the book, the Queen of Hearts is out there. She's very strict, and you do not play. You do what she says, and if you don't, it's off with your head. And a lot of those references from the movie or from the book are in this manga. It gives me goosebumps. I absolutely loved how it was conveyed. Somebody said it was a little bit of a turnoff that like they're saying this is Alice in Wonderland, but it's not really. And I see where they're coming from, because even though the manga is called Twisted-Wonderland, I feel like it's just, you have all these twisted ideas of how these villains are not really villains, and how they're very honorable and prestigious, and people say high praises about them. And you just have this wonderland of this mashup of different, not just the Disney villains, but like the Disney story worlds and inspiration. If you really enjoy like fantasy, especially like magical fantasy, because the magic looks so cool. I mean, it was cool in the game, but hands down, it was so much better in the manga. I loved seeing the fierceness. I mean, I feel like you get a better idea of how powerful specifically Riddle is because of this manga and the things that people say about him. You see that in the game as well, but I feel like it's just strengthened in this manga and really appreciated. I know, even though I have my own feelings about Riddle, I won't go into because I know how this manga ends because of the game, so no spoilers there. But I feel like it gave me a deeper appreciation for his character, and just like, wow, don't get on this guy's bad side anyway, but he is like, you don't want to get on his bad side at all. Hopefully that makes sense. So those are sort of my thoughts and feelings from how I feel like somebody who hasn't played the game or anything like that, or familiar with the characters, like I really just don't feel like you need to play the game to enjoy this story and the characters. Oh my goodness. So the art was absolutely stunning, very, very amazing, and just captured and highlighted the beautiful energy and personalities of these characters. I loved how everybody looks so much. Deuce Spade, he is one of my best boys in my top 5 favorites of the Twisted-Wonderland boys, and I loved how he looks so much. He looks like a precious little bean. He is so precious, and I just loved seeing his one little angry moment, and I'm like, oh, I love him. When you get his backstory, he's perfection. I mean, he has struggles and everything, but I really adore his character so much, and I was so glad that he just had his time in this manga. Cater looked absolutely amazing. He's one of my favorites as well. He's sort of like I feel like the equivalent of a party boy, but very respectful and very kind. He's always taking selfies and on social media, and I really feel like the manga captured that vibrant energy that he has, because he definitely has a certain energy that not all of the other characters have, and especially with his energy, it's very unique to him, and I really feel like that came across on page so very well. When it comes to Trey was sort of like low-key. I wouldn't say he's like one of my least favorite characters, but he's not like up there high in my love for like a lot of the characters, but I loved him on page. Like, I definitely loved him more in the manga than I did the game. There's nothing different, but I feel like the expressions that we can see on Trey's face, and we can see his cute, adorable little awkward smile he has, because it's so incredibly cute. I really love it. And then Ace, oh my goodness. I felt like his energy didn't come across quite the same way I think I was anticipating, or I personally was looking for. I can't put my finger on why. He's still a very fantastic representation of the character in the game, and he did his little heart hands. I was like, oh my goodness. Sorry guys, I'm getting overly excited here, but it was so well done of how everybody was captured. And Riddle, can't forget about Riddle. The scenes with Riddle are amazing. Like, the panels, I mean, I feel like some of the best panels is when we're focusing on Riddle and he's taking up a whole page, half a page, and you can just see his fieriness and his determination and how strong he is. Oh man, there's so many good things with Riddle. If you are a Riddle fan, you definitely do not want to miss this volume. Do not miss this manga in general. He shines. I really feel like he just steals the spotlight on more than one occasion. And Grim, oh my goodness, Grim is a monster, but there's a lot of running jokes about his character that he is a cat, or it's a certain animal that's very popular in Japan. Is it a tanuki? It's like, I'm not those, and he can blow fire, causes mayhem, causes upset, and I love actually how there's sort of like an attachment, not attachment, but an understanding between you and Grim that really shine on page, and I love how it just strengthens, I feel like, the affection I personally had for you, and considering how things unfold later, it was done very well, and just really like that part of the story. That's not exactly quite the same in the game, but I actually thought it was just really done for a manga specific purpose. It was excellent. It was great. But Grim is so fantastic. I love when he's on page. He brings his energy, and just seeing him in all of his cuteness is fantastic. And the only character that I think that that plays a sort of major role that you don't get his name is the head mage, and I love him. His energy is captured so well in the beauty of his clothes, because he has a very unique outfit. That outfit's the same like in the game as it is in the manga, and I love seeing it because he is just a hoot, and he is just such a kind man, as he likes to say. You just see him shine on page as well. Honestly, all of these characters, this, as like I said, as a fan and player of the game, this was everything I had wanted. It is everything I was expecting. It makes my heart so happy that I'm just like, thank you, the artist, the person that did the panels, and just everything behind the scenes. It came together so beautifully. You're just reading this game, playing this game in manga format. And again, if you're not familiar with the game, you can really enjoy the story. It's just a fun fantasy Disney-inspired story with a great cast of characters, because honestly, it's just going to keep getting better and better. I can't recommend it enough, friends. I definitely will be doing another video review when the full series is out, because I want everybody to read this and love these characters just as much as I do. Again, they're the only boys cast of characters that rival my love for Haikyuu. They're so amazing, and the manga just captures that amazingness. So highly recommend. I will stop gushing there, friends, but I thank you so much for watching this video. Let me know, do you play the Twisted-Wonderland game? Who are some of your favorite characters and best boys? If you haven't played it though, are you interested in reading the manga? Did I do a good job convincing you? I would love to hear your thoughts, and if you enjoyed this video, please give this video a thumbs up, and thank you so much for watching. Bye!